If you want to know how to prepare the best cabbage stew and use only one pot, stay right there.
Hello! We are in the kitchen tonight and we are going to be preparing something delicious. It's going to go in one pot and we are going to use one head of cabbage. So let's see what we can cook up tonight. One head of cabbage. You're thinking, well, one head of cabbage, can we make a dinner? But tonight we're going to put together a delicious cabbage stew. And I know you're gonna like it. Well, I'm in the apron and you know what, I'm getting it tied up. I thought about what can we do with cabbage other than to just put it on the stove and kind of fry it up. Not saying that's not good, but I'm always looking for something just a little bit different and adding a few more things. Now, I had a taste for some Italian sausage. Okay, Italian sausage and cabbage. That sounds pretty good. Well, I thought, okay, well, let's ground that Italian sausage up. Let's add a little bit of ground beef just to give it a little more texture. And let's start to add in some additional vegetables. Now, I like tomatoes with my cabbage sometimes. And I thought, you know what? If we're going to do this in one pot, then why not put together a cabbage stew where it's nice and thick, it's going to be nice and hot, and I love my rice, so I'm going to serve it over some rice and dinner is going to be ready. So let's do this. Now I'm going to have to do a little bit of slicing and dicing before I put things into the crock pot to go. And actually, this particular recipe, I think you can do it in your Instapot, just kind of adjust the settings. You could do it, of course, in your slow cooker. You could do it in a Dutch oven on the stovetop, and you could even put it in your oven. It just depends on what your time frame is. So we're going to do that slicing and dicing very quickly. We're going to get our onion cut up. We're going to get our cabbage cut up. And then we're going to start to put things into our vessel. Okay, we're going to work on the onion. And keep this in mind. We want the pieces of the onion to cook, but we don't want them so small. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to cut the onion in half. And then I'm going to put these into about 1/4 of an inch. So you can see I didn't small dice it, but that's going to be just small enough. Now, if you have a little one in your household who has or even a big person in your household who has issues with seeing the onion, then you may want to chop yours up just a little bit smaller, but we're good here, and that's a good size for me. So 1 medium onion. Now, our cabbage, we're going to want this cabbage in pieces of about 1.5 inch. So I've taken a slice off, and I'm going to have to make sure I have any little bad spots that I take those things off. I'm going to cut it in half, just slice in half, and I'm going to put it into, that's 1, 2, I've made 3 cuts, so let's cut it into 4, and you can see the size of the slices. That's how big our little cabbage pieces are going to be, so I'm going to put that over there as well. And I'm going to continue doing this until I have this entire cabbage cut down, because we're going to use all of it tonight. Well, I am starting to cook this down very low. Got it on. I'm going to turn it down to about a 4. And I'm going to, well, let's say 3. And I'm going to let this cook down because my hamburger is still just a tiny bit frozen and needs to soften up a little bit. So I'm going to let this cook and get all the meats nice and well cooked. And once that happens, I'll bring you back.
I am Leona Dooley, and this is Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme. And before we go on, let me first talk to you about what we're doing in our kitchen. We are maximizing our kitchens in 2021. We are making them more efficient and we are lifting up our families. Now, here at Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme, we love to decorate, cook, and chat. And all of these things make a home a warm and happy place. The kitchen is our hub. It's the heart of the house. It is in our kitchen where we love and nurture and encourage and guide our families over delicious meals or just across the counter. Your kitchen should be the place where everyone wants to come and have a seat and get a hug. So I'm asking you to join me weekly in the kitchen of Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme and see what we are doing.
All right, we've got this meat, as you can see, is cooking, and I'm just breaking it up as we go. I'm not being partial to the sausage or to the ground beef. Everything is going to get broken up. And the only reason I sliced the Italian sausage was just so it would cook more quickly. But my ground beef is still just a little pinker than I want. And so I'm just taking my wooden spoon and going in and just giving everything a chop. We don't want it too small, but we do want things, because this is a hearty cabbage stew, as most stews are. One thing to keep in mind is that you're going to want to prepare some hot rice, or if you prefer to serve this over mashed potatoes, you can certainly do that. You could even bake a large potato and have this, open that potato up and put your cabbage stew right in the center. So that gives you some options of some things that you could do with that. And if you can think of some other things that you might be able to serve this over, certainly give me a shout out in the comment box. So we are just continuing to cook this. Now this is just about where we want it. Like I said, I'm chopping those little sausages up, but not teeny tiny. Just kind of breaking them up. And as they cook low and slow, they will break themselves up even more. But we do want to get them started with that. So as they're cooking, we'll kind of have an idea as to what they're going to look like in the end. Now in the center, we're going to add in some items. So let's get ready to add some things to the pot. The first thing I'm going to do is to put in a small can of tomato sauce. Here's our small container. I took it out of the can, and a lot of times I do that and I actually freeze it. So that had been in the freezer to store it. That worked out. Now I have a large can of tomatoes, and this is I want to say a 15 ounce. Oh no. This is 1 and 12 ounces, about 28 ounces of tomatoes. Now these are whole tomatoes. So the first thing I'm going to do, just to keep down the splattering, is that I'm going to take the liquid off. Then I'm going to see if I can take my spoon into this can. I'm going to sit it off to the side, and I'll put you over there so you can see. But I'm going to use my spoon as the chopper. And I don't want my tomatoes very small. So I'm just taking my spoon and just kind of giving it a rough chop. A rough chop, because we want this to be hearty. And you're going to see a lot more juice come out. And of course, you know that as they cook, they will break down a little bit, but we want to start them off pretty rough. And you could have even done it with your hand. So I'm going to pour that juice off again. We're going to need all of that juice. And I'm going to start to add in the tomatoes. So I put that whole can, and you see I'm still taking my spoon and breaking that up. So I've broken those whole tomatoes up. I didn't want to get, you could have just used 2 cans of diced tomatoes. You could certainly do that, but I like being able to break it up the size I want them to be. And this was one of those cases where I wanted a more hearty look to it. So we've got our tomatoes in. I have an end that's in there that needs a little more work. And I have a small can of tomato sauce, which is going to give the richness that we need to our stew. So there we go. We got that all mixed in. I'm bringing you in a little closer again, so you're right here with me. Okay, now let's add some seasonings. We have, let me get our onions, and then we'll add the onions into this. Okay, now I always start at the center. I'm going to add in 1 whole chopped onion. That's where we're going to put it, right there in the center, so you can see there's our onion. On top of that, I'm going to add in 3 cloves of garlic that have been minced. And you know what? My spoon's not going to do it. So we get all that garlic out, because we're going to need that in our seasoning. So there we go. We got that out. I'm also going to add in a heaping teaspoon of ginger that's also minced. And give all of that a little stir. Oh, that smells so good. Ah. Woo. That is good. That ginger just added that extra flavor to it. Okay, so we're there. Now we're going to need to get a clean spoon so we can add in the other seasonings. Now I'm going to put in some garlic powder, and put in about a ½ teaspoon or so of garlic powder, and I'm staying on the lighter side because I can always add more if I need to. I'm going to add in some onion powder. Yes, we have onion, but onion powder is going to give it another layer of flavor. Add in about a ½ teaspoon to start with, and you may want to go back and add more later. So you always start small and work your way up. Okay, I'm going to add in some pepper. I'm going to add in a teaspoon of pepper. And a teaspoon of salt as well. And I've got pink Himalayan salt. I'm going to give all of this a good stir. Now, we're going to add in a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. And I'm just going to give it a few shakes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 shakes of Lee & Perrin, or whatever brand you like, but that's my favorite. is. I wish you could smell this. Mm, 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 mm. You know, after this is all over with, you could come back with this, add extra broth, and have a cabbage soup. Or we could just even at this point make it a soup. Oh, we're not. Okay, let's put in some pepperoncino. A pinch. And now we're going to start to add in some broth. This is beef broth. Now we want this a little juicy because when we put this over our rice, we want the gravy. Okay, so you can see that that's pretty loose. Now I'm going to let this cook, and I'm not going to put the cabbage in until about 30 minutes or so before I'm going to serve it, because I don't want my cabbage all cooked up. So there we go. This is going to cook low and slow. This is early in the day. I'll tell you exactly how long I let it cook. Put it down on 3 on a low bubble. Let me get a spoon. Check our seasonings at this point, and then I'll check later. Oh man, yummy. I can't put that back in there, but oh, that is so good. All right, top on. I'm going to give this about 2 hours. Low and slow, 2 hours.
Oh my goodness, guys. We have allowed this mixture to cook about an hour so that all of those flavors could come together. And I'm adding the cabbage on top. And I'm just going to let that simmer. I'm going to give it a good stir and let it simmer. And then we're going to be ready to eat. Family, I certainly hope that you are in a safe place, because we got hit by another ice snowstorm, and it is very, very chilly. And many people in our area lost power, and I know some of you have even had issues with your water, and I pray that you are safe and well. I cheated. I took a little taste of this, and oh my goodness, it is the best cabbage stew that you will ever want to come across your lips. So I have put the rice in the bowls, and I am just going to slather over this cabbage stew. And then we're going to eat, and I'm not going to talk.
I hope you have had a wonderful time in the kitchen, and I hope that you will continue to be a part of the Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme family. I have certainly enjoyed your presence.